Hi, we'd like to thank you for tuning in to the World Boxing Review radio show. My name is Aaron Snow. They call me the Hall of Fame trainer of champions. That we travel the world for past, present, and future stars and coming to you live from Tampa, Florida. Boy, there was a lot going on last week up in Canastota for the International Boxing Hall of Fame as Manny Pacquiao, Michael Nunn, and then went into the International Boxing Hall of Fame. Boy, was it star-studded as we bring you certain things uh, live. And we want to thank today on air Larry Lazardi, the president of the Rochester Boxing Hall of Fame, for allowing us to stream live in the museum as we showed people who may have never seen the museum, what it looks like on the inside of the museum and different events that were going on. And I hope that people will go up there and visit the International Boxing Hall of Fame up there. Ed Brophy, who does a great job, who's the director up there with that museum and keeping boxing live with the worldwide exposure as people are inducted from all over the world into the International Boxing Hall of Fame. And also today, there's Kambosos and them are fighting for the IBF light heavyweight, um, welterweight, excuse me, the welterweight title fight from New York live on the zone. So catch that. That should be a good fight in that 147-pound belt for the IBF. And also, um, as they're juggling around to move weight, some guys are moving up in weight class. Boots Ennis, who had the IBF 147-pound welterweight title, he's moving up to 54. And hopes to capture greatness for some great fights at junior middleweight. I hope he does well up in that weight class, but Bootsin is definitely a star as he looks his conquest to move up in the heavyweight, uh, welterweight um, championship. And also, we want to say that Canelo Alvarez and Crawford, they have signed and agreed to fight September 13th out in Las Vegas. That should be great time out there in Las Vegas for that fight. Man, as anything, we just hope that it keeps moving forward to make that fight happen. It's a boxing jewels thing when you see a contrast in styles. Boxer against slugger, one moving up in weight class, and Crawford, and one of the all-time great fighters, Canelo Alvarez, as he has moved up and down in different weight classes to move and win uh, titles in multiple weight classes. In the C, one undefeated, one that has been beat, been around for a while, but to for two fighters to meet in their prime, uh, where they're on the top of their game as being pound for pound. I think it is a great thing, and we want to thank um, the people who put that together. You know, to make that kind of fight happen, it takes a lot of hard work um, to get people on the negotiating table. Like I was telling people all the time when they said, "Well, this one's scared, that one's scared." I said the only ones scared are the ones at the on the negotiating table. You know, it comes to the promoters and the managers where they think, you know, about the greed instead of the need to make something big and great happen. And it seemed like now all of their mouths are full with what they want. So uh, the fighters will always fight. If you see two ants going down the street, them two will start fighting. But fighters will fight, man. And it ain't so much about the fighters; it's about the other egos in the room that push and pull when it comes to negotiating where the money's at. And it seems like they got that fight together. So Crawford and Canelo Alvarez, I think, is a dynamite matchup. In boxing, there's an old saying is that a good southpaw is always difficult, is because of the position of the feet and also the contrast in styles, with Crawford being a good boxer and Canelo Alvarez being a good slugger. We're going to see if Canelo Alvarez can, who has a good right hand, if he can land that right hand and also that left hook that you need against the southpaw, if he can deliver that left hook. And we're going to see how he handles that uh, great jab that Crawford has, how Canelo Alvarez is going to handle that, and how's he going to cut the ring off and to chop that down. That's just what makes this fight so great when you have two great fights. And one thing I can say, I don't think this fight is going the distance. Somebody's going to get knocked out. When you have two great fighters biting at the bit to prove who's the greatest of this era. Uh, it always is electrifying and all of that. And I think someone's getting knocked out in the fight. That's what it's going to bring. I think it's going to, the moment in the stage is going to be set to prove that they're the greatest of this era. And when fighters are aiming to prove that, someone's getting knocked out. And that's good because it's going to bring excitement. And I want to tell these guys who want to set the stage to say they're not going to deal with no guys that run. In Madison Square Garden, there was guys who were working in there back in the day in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. Is that they said those kind of things to fighters to take dives. Dave DeForest, who ran Madison Square Garden back in the day, he did that where the mob controlled the game in order to set the outcome of different fights up. I think Turk Al-Sheikh is bigger than that. I think to say such a thing where you won't deal with certain kind of fighters and that's that other garbage that goes with that UFC bull crap. All you have to do is have a great matchmaker that knows, number one, the fighters, know what styles work together, because it's styles that make fights. And when you look at the contrast in style and then put them in the ring, it just ain't about namesake, it's about style. And can different fighters make adjustment to different styles to create something electrifying? And, that's where it comes with great matchmaking. When you see doll fights, like within New York, what happened, it's about matchmaking. And I'm pretty sure the matchmakers maybe had thought one thing, but the outcome was another thing when it comes to fight strategy and all of that that fighters have. Why sit there and slug with a guy when he can't move his feet in order to catch up with you to cut the ring off and stuff like that? With fighters, a win is a win, but to be electrifying is another thing, and it ain't all about sitting in the center of the ring just slugging each other out. That ain't boxing. The blood in the guts with the UFC and all of that kind of stuff. Leave the UFC and boxing. Boxing is because boxing has stood the criticism of time as it elevated and grew in to certain thing. And then this time, boxing is growing at an alarming rate. time after time after again. It's like the eyes of the phoenix. No sooner you see boxing, it seems like it has disappeared, and it gets a brand new spark and a brand new light into it. I think Turk Al-Sheikh, you mean well, but you have the wrong guys in your ear telling you something that is not true. All it takes is great matchmaking, and great promoters have proved that through the time, that it takes great matchmaking to put fighters together. That the contrast in style and knowing the two fighters, what they can do and what they can't do, and what they can handle and what they can't handle, is what makes great fights. And great trainers know that, and what it is when you find guys that say, this guy's going to run, we want him to stand there and fight. That's trainers who can't teach fighters to make adjustment to different styles. They know that the fighter has one style, and that can do very well against one style, and they want to dictate to the game, well, I'm going to blow this guy out, so I want him to stand there. Sometimes you got to be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it. And boxing is on a dime. The name of the game is hit and don't get hit. And when you get a boxer puncher that sits there on the dime and is willing to hit and not get hit, a slugger could be in trouble sitting when you get a boxer and he wants to sit on the dime on you and hit and don't get hit. And all he's going to do is make a small little circle around you. That is nightmares in the blues. And when it gets clipped from frustration of not knowing how to handle a guy that's sitting right in front of him, hit and not get hit, and he's throwing punches and bunches, it could be a nightmare for a guy. So all I'm saying, man, it's a contrast in style, man. If you're good, know what it takes in order to attack certain styles. That's what it's all about. Our knowledge how to do certain things in our different fighters. What they can do and what they can do, and what they can handle and what they can handle. And why cut a bunch of fighters out of something when you're doing so much great things to support the sport? And you bring it along so far, and I think you can bring it along the rest of the way by keeping your mind open and thinking these young fighters that think you can make it without having a belt. You're not a YouTuber, brother. And it takes time in order to build a guy's name and reputation, his wills and his skills up. In this era, everybody wants things to be quick, fast, in a hurry, and everybody wants to be great before they're great. It takes trials and tribulations of time is to put yourself in that kind of position in order to be great. And I keep saying, they want to try to talk these boxing organization out of the picture, which I don't think you should do that. It's because they got a history on their side. And the history is that when you trace it back, what makes boxing so great, you can trace the history of boxing way, way back, from the man who fought the man that beat the man that fought the man that beat the man that fought the man that beat the man that fought the man that beat the man. So that's what makes boxing great. You can trace the lineage of boxing history way back. And what happens that guys don't want to buy their time in order to fight and to be great. They want shortcuts to success. And so they think that they can take these shortcomings with these multimedia devices in order to be great and say, well, I don't have to do that. I got 50 million people following me. You may have 50 million people following you, but the proof is in the pudding. When you get with these organizations and the man that fought the man that beat the man, and you got to fight the man, that beat the man, that fought the man. You can't rise to the occasion. You find that all that multi-media media stuff was a bunch of phony baloney stuff. You know what I mean? These boxing organizations, like the WBC, have affiliates in 169 countries, man, where they look at boxers that are in the gym, amateurs and professionals, and see them growing, and then have small titles that they fight for in their region in order to get noticed, the exposure to fight and be rated. And this is how the sport finds the best that are in a region, and that's how they pick them out to put them on the worldwide scene. So don't try to get rid of them, you know, just because you don't have no ratings in the UFC that are worldwide. You know, all your ratings are hand picked, and then you want to hand pick the fights. You want to hand pick the outcome. That's called fixed fights in the United States, and especially in Las Vegas. Guys have went to jail for fixing fights. And I think fixing fights and try to fix the outcome in order for monetary value is a real shame. You know what I mean? In the game. And those guys that try to do that are undermining stuff like that is an absolute shame when it comes to boxing. It's there. People are trying to tear it apart from the inside of boxing. They're trying to outright tear this game apart by saying those things when they start saying by these organizations that have rules and regulations that they have to follow in order to keep the game going. And then just because you got money, you think that you can do whatever you want to do just because you say, I got money, I can dictate the policy of what's happening in the game. That's a crying shame. And I think the fans, when they see those kind of things happen, I think they should speak up and show and not go. When you see those type of things happen to events, it's because it's all what the people want. It's all about the fans, and the boxing fans are true to the game. With all of those record pay-per-views on the top of all of sports, you find who the toughest athlete, the biggest money earners. Most of the time, boxers fit right up there. If it ain't on the top, it's right up there in the top three. So boxing does do something because it crosses ethnical lines, and the boxers have human stories that are put together in order where people can touch and hold on to. So, hey, look, man, Turk Al Sheikh, brother, Salam Alaikum. I wish you tie your camel in the right spots. You know, inshallah, you will. And keep your wills and skills to do right by people, is because God loves all the people of the world, not just some. And when you understand that, when you take the cream of shahada and bearing witness in the oneness of God, we try to do our will and we try to do our best for people and by people, because our magic lies with our people ties. When you're tied in with the right people, you create something mystical and magical that none of them can figure out. And you don't have to fix it, because the Lord of the world has already fixed it for the be right and the do right. So I'm going to close in saying this. May God continue to bless each and every one of you, and always do the right thing when it comes to people. And when you do the right thing when it comes to people, you will always have success. Greetings of peace.